And is there a better way to celebrate than reacting to Daniel Jeremiah's first mock draft? I don't think so, guys. As someone that loves the draft, this is a great Friday night for me. So I'm going to be reacting live to Daniel Jeremiah's first mock draft, and I'll be kind of critiquing, quote unquote, his selections, not because I think I'm right or Daniel Jeremiah is wrong. I just think it's interesting how different people can have different views on the same players, right? It's not that I think that I know more than Daniel Jeremiah. It's just interesting to see someone who does know a lot about the game. Obviously, like, he's one of the biggest names in the draft world and indeed wider than that. But it's going to be interesting for me to see who he ranks and how highly he ranks players. I already know from reacting to his top 15 that there are some players that he ranks really highly that I don't at all. And there are some players that he doesn't rate so highly, which I do. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select Abdul Carter. Okay, so I actually really can get on board with this. I do think, what is he? So he said that Carter's the best player in the draft, plays a premium position, and they might think that he thinks the Titans might add quarterback competition for Will Levis in the free agent market. Honestly, I can really get on board with this pick. I think that the quarterback class isn't that strong. I think that you don't need to take a quarterback this year if you are the Titans, right? Your new general manager has job security. It's not a strong quarterback class. I like Cam Ward. I wouldn't have hated Cam Ward here at all. But for me, it's kind of a toss-up really at this point between Cam Ward at 1 and Abdul Carter at 1, just because of that exact reason. Like, Cam Ward last year would have been like QB4. I think he's good. He's the best quarterback in this class by a mile, I think. But that's mostly because of the lack of any real competition. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is anywhere near his level, definitely anywhere near a level of a quarterback that can make your team better. I think he's kind of like a tofu quarterback, I like to call Shedeur Sanders, someone that will take on the ability of those around him. If you surround him with a great supporting cast, he could be very good. If you don't, well, I don't think he's going to be very good at all. And so for me, I think Abdul Carter, like I agree with what Daniel Jeremiah has said here. I think Abdul Carter is potentially the best player in this draft. I think he has the highest ceiling. I think right now he might not be that best player, but he's an edge rush from Penn State, wears 11. Again, Micah Parsons comparisons are going to be all over this guy. He's not there yet, but I could see that happening. I really would not be shocked if Abdul Carter became that kind of player. So Abdul Carter, the Titans at 1, I like it. The Browns at 2, Travis Hunter. I think that's quite an interesting pick for me, considering where the Browns are as a franchise. He has also passed on a quarterback here for the Browns, which I think is the right decision. I think that this team is in a free fall. It's in a complete and utter mess. Even a quarterback like Cam Ward, who is a good quarterback, like I say, is not going to be able to elevate this team into remote competitiveness. They need a hard reset after the Deshaun Watson situation. And Travis Hunter, in theory, is right now the best player in this draft. He's the one that is the only one that I think is generational, quote unquote, in the sense that he can genuinely play both ways. I wonder where he would be playing in this Browns team. Would he play more wide receiver? Would he play more cornerback? I think the Browns need wide receiver more than they need cornerback. But look, I mean, Travis Hunter is an amazing talent, and the Browns just need talent. But frankly, I don't think I would have gone Travis Hunter here. Maybe. I mean, would I have taken Cam Ward purely for the positional value? Maybe. I don't think I would have been particularly excited about it, though. Offensive line the Browns' offensive line is absolutely terrible, guys. Jedrick Wills is a free agent. DeJuan Jones has taken a step back. They allowed the third highest pressure rate this year at 25.3%. That's partially why I don't think they should draft a quarterback, and it is maybe a little bit high for offensive line. I think really, in any scenario, obviously trades aren't happening just yet. I don't think in this draft, in this mock at least. I'm not doing trades, at least in mine. The Browns are a prime trade down spot. Like, the Raiders might want to come up, the Jets might want to come up, the Giants might want to come up. So really, I think this is a trade down spot. I would have liked Abdul Carter, but he already went. So actually, to be fair, I don't hate the Travis Hunter pick at all. I can get on board with that. I think it's good. No notes. Cam Ward at 3, yeah. this is if this was to happen, this would be a home run pick for the Giants. They need a quarterback, I think, more than anyone else in the league. Them and the Raiders are the two most quarterback needy teams. I know other teams do need them, but I don't think any teams need them more than the Raiders, and I would put the Giants even ahead of that. And Cam Ward is the best quarterback in this draft class. I think Cam Ward is a quarterback who you can win because of, not just with. He's my 8th ranked player. Like I say, he would have been QB4 in the last draft class. I think maybe QB. No, I wouldn't have had him ahead of Jaden Daniels, I don't think. But Cam Ward is a playmaker. I think he projects a little bit, and this is very high praise, and I don't mean it to be, but he projects a little bit like a Josh Allen in the sense that he's got live arm, he's a playmaker, good with his legs as well. That's exactly what Daniel Jeremiah has said. Strong arm, playmaking ability, great fit. And I completely agree with that. I think this would be an A+ pick if it were to happen. And I really like it. The Giants need a quarterback. Cam Ward's the best one. Perfect marriage. New England Patriots. This is really interesting. So Daniel Jeremiah has the Patriots taking Will Campbell, the LSU offensive tackle. He says the Patriots must help Drake May on the offensive line. I see Campbell as a safe, steady player who is still improving. I think I do really agree with what DJ is saying there. I think building around Drake May is the absolute priority for the Patriots in this draft. Personally, I would have gone with Tetairoa McMillan. I'm currently making a draft profile for him, so make sure you subscribe to see that. And I think he's a great wide receiver, like so great. Like he's 6'4". He's listed at 6'5". I think he looks more like 6'4". Everyone loves adding a little bit of something to their height, and I just think that he would fit better. I think that he is, like I said, 6'4" wide receiver, 210 pounds, but he plays like a 6 foot, 200 pound wide receiver. Like he breaks tackles at an insanely high rate. He's so good after the catch, and also playing with Noah Fita this year, the quarterback from Arizona. He's so good at making a play out of structure. Noah Fita loved bailing out of a clean pocket in Arizona. It's actually infuriating to watch that tape. But that is kind of what Drake May likes to do. He likes to extend the play. We've seen him do that against the Titans, holding on to the ball for like 8 seconds. I think McMillan and May would be an amazing pairing. However, I can definitely see the Patriots drafting an offensive lineman here. I think you can get a good wide receiver in the second in this class. It's kind of almost being a bit slept on, I think, this wide receiver class, especially at the top of the second, which I always think has kind of become a bit of a sweet spot for wide receivers in recent years. But I also think that Will Campbell is, as DJ says, a safe, steady player. I think he's got the highest floor of any lineman in this class. I think he could be, in theory, the best offensive lineman in the class. It just kind of depends on where teams have him. I think if you're drafting him inside the top 10, you've got to think of him as a tackle, but he does have shorter arms. And I think a lot of people will see him more as a guard. So, but having said that, the new head coach, Mike Vrabel for the Patriots, he drafted, who is Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, who is very similar to Will Campbell in the sense that he's an offensive lineman with shorter arms. And I think they played Skoronski at guard, actually. I think they play him at left guard in Tennessee. So clearly Vrabel has no issue with picking a shorter-armed offensive lineman early, and especially one that doesn't even necessarily play tackle. And I agree. Building around Drake May, either wide receiver or offensive tackle, is the priority. I would have gone Tetairoa McMillan here, so I don't love the pick, but I definitely don't hate it. The Jags at 5 are taking Mason Graham, the interior defensive lineman from Michigan. And I love Mason Graham. I think he could be one of the best players in this class. And I, to be fair, already reading what DJ said, I completely agree. He says Graham is one of the cleaner evaluations in the draft. He provides unbelievable quickness, balance, and instincts. And I completely agree. I think Mason Graham is a human pitbull. 6'3", 320 pounds. That's 24th percentile height with 84th percentile weight. So this guy's rocked up, jacked to the eyeballs, basically. He's super explosive. He's got active hands. He's quick. He's not just like a gap shooter. He's a genuine pass rusher. And he moves really well for a heavy bloke. I do think, though, that who's still on the board here for the Jags? Let me see, who would I... Kelvin, no, they don't need offensive line. No, to be fair, I think considering how it's fallen, I always love drafting Travis Hunter to the Jags, but he's already gone, obviously. So I do think that Mason Graham, to be fair, is a fantastic fit. Looking at how my board is as well, he's my 7th ranked player. I've got a few. Maybe I would have gone with Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, because I think that is also a need for the Jags. But look, I mean, if you get a fantastic defensive tackle, that just upgrades your team so much. And I think that Mason Graham is maybe not quite that like top tier of prospects, one of those like great defensive tackles that come out every few years. But I think he's just a smidge below that. He's fantastic. And the Jags needed that. They've got not great. They've got an up and coming edge rush staple, kind of led by Trayvon Walker. It's the interior of that defensive line, which is a bit weaker. So I really like Mason Graham there, to be fair. Daniel Jeremiah kind of cooking, I'm not going to lie. Raiders at 6, yeah. Shedeur Sanders. I think I did this in my last mock draft. And it just makes so much sense, doesn't it? Like, the Raiders desperately need a quarterback. I think they kind of already love Shedeur. It's something I could definitely see happening. And it just kind of makes sense. I mean, I personally wouldn't do it. I don't see Shedeur Sanders as being able to like elevate your program, which for me means that like I wouldn't take him inside the top 15 picks. I think he's worth a shot. I have him as my 20th ranked prospect at the moment because I don't think he has any kind of elite trait, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's got good accuracy and good ball placement, but he's not a good athlete. I think he's adequate. I think he lacks arm strength to make some of those high-tier NFL throws that, frankly, the best 7 quarterbacks in the league make on like a weekly basis. They make, 2-3 of those throws every game, like tight window, over the middle, throws like that. I just don't really see Shedeur Sanders being able to make those kind of throws. So I don't love Shedeur in the top 6. I think this will happen, but if I'm grading it on what I would do, then I don't like this pick. And if this were to happen in real life, I would say the exact same thing. DJ says, Tom Brady, now a partner in Raiders ownership, is someone who would appreciate Sanders' toughness, accuracy, and decision-making. I mean, look, that little blurb alone tells you what you need to know about Shedeur Sanders. Like, the fact that it's mentioning more about Tom Brady than it is about, and the fact that it only mentions Sanders' toughness, yeah, he is tough. Accuracy, yeah, he's accurate, and his decision-making, I mean, I think the floor's pretty low there, if I'm being honest with you. I think Shedeur will come in and be a decent quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a bad one, but I just don't think he'll ever be a great one. So I question drafting a quarterback like that in the top 10 picks, frankly. So look, if it's a prediction, I think it's going to happen. If it's what I would do, I don't like that pick. The Jets at 7, Tyler Warren. DJ, you've cooked with Tyler Warren. I absolutely love Tyler Warren, and you'll hear me say this if you subscribe, which you should do for more draft content. You'll hear me say this in every mock draft, in kind of anything to do with the draft. I'm going to mention Tyler Warren because I am sipping that Tyler Warren Kool-Aid. DJ says, and so is he as well. Honestly, great minds think alike. Warren, he says, Warren is one of my favorite players in this draft. He'll be popular with his quarterback and running backs as a difference-making inline tight end. I have seen a take, and I agree with this, and I've seen it kind of split opinion. Brett Coleman said that he wouldn't besmirch anyone that had Tyler Warren graded higher than Brock Bowers, and then the PFF, I watched all his stuff. Mike Renner replied saying, I would besmirch. It's like, I think to say that Warren is better than Bowers is wrong. I think Bowers is the better prospect. I especially think that Bowers is the better receiving threat. However, whisper it very quietly, I kind of think that Warren is the better tight end, if that makes sense. Like, Bowers' receiving ability basically almost made me grade him like a wide receiver more than a tight end. Like, you're not going to use Bowers in line to try and dig out a defensive lineman. You're just not going to ask him to do that. Warren, you can. Like, they're down as playing the same position, but Bowers is more of a power slot receiver than Tyler Warren, who is just more of a traditional tight end. But having said that, I think they're both quite similar in the fact that they're both offensive Swiss Army knives. Like, Tyler Warren, I think, is a do-it-all wide tight end. He has played 69 snaps out wide, so as a wide receiver. He's played 228 in the slot as a slot receiver, 62 in the backfield as a running back, 338 in line as a traditional tight end, and 33 at quarterback as a wildcat quarterback. He literally plays everywhere along the offense apart from the actual offensive line, but he can be attached to the offensive line and do really well in that regard. So I love Tyler Warren. I kind of see him almost like a pseudo, not a wide receiver, because that's not how he's used, but more just like an offensive playmaker, if that makes sense. I think like people historically don't love drafting tight ends this highly. Maybe they've got like a bit of PTSD from Kyle Pitts, but I love Tyler Warren, and the Jets need another pass catcher. Who knows what's going to happen with Devontae Adams if Aaron Rodgers goes? I think you've got obviously a great player in Garrett Wilson, and I think Tyler Warren would be a great complement to that. So this is a fantastic pick for me. Some people might say it's too early. I don't think so, guys. Oh, yes. Okay. I love this pick. The Carolina Panthers at 8 are taking Teto McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. Problem is that because I love McMillan so much, and so does my brother, who I also do some mock drafts with, McMillan is long gone by this pick, usually when I do the draft. So I never get to draft McMillan for the Panthers. But this is a fantastic fit. Like, the thought of Bryce Young, who I think we can all just like root for to some degree, with the wide receiver one in this draft class, is a home run pick. This is my favorite pick so far. I think value, I think fit, I think potential impact. DJ has said the Panthers continue to build around Bryce Young with a big, rangy, athletic receiver in McMillan. He'll be a red zone menace. He won't just be a red zone menace. He's going to be a menace at all three levels of the field. You can literally keep this guy on the field at all times. Like I said, yes, he's like 6'4", 6'5", but he's so good with the ball in his hands, at breaking tackles, at getting yards after the catch. Like, he is the playmaker that Bryce Young desperately needs. Yeah, I quite like Leggett. Yeah, I like Jalen Coker, but none of those guys, and I like Adam Thielen, none of those guys are wide receiver ones. Not even really, at the moment, wide receiver twos. You hope that Leggett can develop into that. But look, McMillan is absolutely incredible. Like, I'm in love with McMillan genuinely. I think he's going to be a top 5 player for me at least. And I think he's going to serve to be a force multiplier for Bryce Young and make him better. They've addressed the offensive line really well. They desperately need some weapons for him. So I love that pick. Saints drafting Mikael Williams at 9. Now, the Saints are in a really interesting spot because... Where is Mikael Williams on my notes? The Saints are in a very interesting spot at 9 because it's kind of like, what do you do? Like, they're in complete limbo. They don't even have at the moment when I'm recording this on February the 7th, they don't even have a head coach. Yeah, it might be the Eagles offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, but literally no one wants this job because they essentially have to not be competitive for 2 years, have a massive hard cap reset, and they just need to kind of take talent wherever they can get it. I don't think that talent should be Mikael Williams at all. DJ says the Saints continue to add young, athletic players to their defensive front. Williams played hurt all season long, but his tools are exceptional. I agree. Sorry about that. I agree. The tools are exceptional. You look at a video of this guy, and you can see those tools by watching 1 second of it. He's 6'5", 260 pounds, and this guy's arms like touch his knees. Like, if you're drawing an edge rusher, you draw them with those physical traits, and frankly, you draw them in the Georgia Bulldogs uniform as well, right? And that high upside he has is clear with those physical traits, and you know, he's really good in run defense, and he's a developing pass rusher. But I think Mikael Williams is a lottery pick. I think he hasn't shown nowhere near enough to be drafted this highly at all. He's my 24th ranked player. He had an injury, which DJ mentions, yes, but regardless I don't think he was really showing that much before his injury anyway. So in 2024, yes, he was injured. He had 26 sacks. 26 sacks? God, if he had 26 sacks, he'd definitely be going this high. 26 pressures, 5 sacks. 2023, 26 pressures, 6 sacks. 2022, 33 pressures, 6 sacks. Like, he's just kind of always been the same kind of player. And he had no pressures against Notre Dame. He has an 11.2 pass rush win rate. He's not a developed or refined pass rusher. I don't think he can win with his physical tools, right? He has them. Can't win with size, despite having insanely long arms, being a big lad. And I think he's got bad hand placement. So I think for me, if this was to happen at 9, considering you've got if you want an edge rusher, you've got the likes of Mike Green, James Pierce Jr. still on the board. Shamar Stewart, I even wouldn't hate at 9 after his Senior Bowl performance. I think if this was to happen in real life, I would really not like this pick, and I don't like it now. Chicago Bears at 10 to take Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. DJ says, I think Booker is one of the safest picks in the draft. He will help firm up the interior offensive line for Caleb Williams. I disagree. I think Tyler Booker would only suit certain blocking schemes. I think he'd fit a gap blocking scheme, not like a zone blocking scheme, because his movement skills aren't that great. I don't think he's the best pure offensive lineman. I would give that to Gray Zabel, who I would only really take later. I think taking a pure guard at 10 is rich at best. I would probably have taken Calvin Banks Jr., who, yes, plays tackle officially, but I think a lot of people will have Banks as a guard. I have him as a tackle, but I think drafting a guy like Banks gives you positional flexibility and allows you to get your best 5 out on the field. Tyler Booker is not a tackle. He's not going to play tackle at the next level. So I like going offensive line to help protect Caleb Williams. I really do not like the selection of Tyler Booker here at all. I think it's a reach, and I think it's not the best player on the board either. I mean, even looking down, Amar Membu, if you're looking for kind of someone that's who could play more like a guard, that's not a good pick. That's probably the worst one so far. If this is in real life, I'd be tempted to give that an F. San Francisco 49ers, Amar Membu. I absolutely love Amar Membu. He is the tackle from Missouri. He is 6'3", I think, 6'3", about that. So he doesn't look like an offensive tackle. And so that's why DJ has him down as an interior offensive lineman. I think he can play tackle. And I think that's what's quite good for the 49ers, is that you can draft this guy, you can play him at guard, and then if Trent Williams retires, or when Trent Williams retires, he could potentially kick out there. I think Amar Membu is such a great player. He's so strong. He can toss lighter edge rushers out of the club. He's athletic as hell. He's young. He only turns 21 just before the draft. He only allowed 9 pressures and 0 sacks this year. He's got 34-inch arms. Like I said, yeah, he's 6'3" and 3/4, but he's got the arms to hold up at tackle. So what does DJ say about this one? He says, Membu is the most technically sound offensive lineman in this class. Kind of agree. He reminds me of Elijah Vera Tucker. Definitely agree. When he entered the league, Membu will be an exceptional guard who can also play tackle if needed. Yeah, I completely agree. Straight back from the 49ers here. I like it. At 12, the Dallas Cowboys select Ashton Jeanty. Now, DJ says, I know I'm not the first to make this connection, and I'm sure I won't be the last. Jeanty is one of the more enjoyable players to study in this class. He has elite vision and balance, offering a massive upgrade in Dallas. Yes. 100% yes. I think if this happens, you can't really hate on it that much, because Jeanty is taking positional value out of it. Top 3, I think it's Carter, Hunter, Jeanty, kind of in any order. Obviously, if you rank positional value, that's going to change. But Jeanty led the league in rush yards, led the league in yards after contact, led the league in missed tackles forced, led the league in yards per attempt. He had one of the best running back seasons in college football. Like, this guy is absolutely nuts. His yards after contact, which I can get the exact stat actually. So Ashton Jeanty had 1,970 yards after contact, right? Which obviously led the nation in college football. That rushing total, 197 yards, which by the way is Jeanty's yards after contact, not his total yards, but just Jeanty's yards after contact would be second in total rush yards in the nation. So it essentially goes Ashton Jeanty total, number 2, Ashton Jeanty after contact, 3, Cam Scatterbu is the next highest total rush yard leader. Like, Ashton Jeanty is just so good. And the Cowboys didn't have a good backfield this year. Really, I don't hate Rico Dowdle at all. I actually think he's quite serviceable. But obviously, if you can draft a player like Ashton Jeanty, you can. I question, though, if perhaps wide receiver here wouldn't be more impactful to the team, considering that this is a really deep running back class, and you can get a great running back in the second, in the third, in the fourth. Like, I think there's going to be like 30 running backs taken this year. So it's not like you have to get Ashton Jeanty. And I think that a Luther Burden might have been more impactful to allow CeeDee Lamb to not just be the only receiving threat. Yes, of course, Jeanty can be from the backfield, but it's not as impactful as having another wide receiver. I think there's definitely a debate to be had there. You can't hate on this pick, though. If this was real life, I'd give it a solid B+, I think. Here we go. Dolphins, Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle from Texas. Fantastic pick. DJ says, nothing is more important to the Dolphins than protecting Tua Tagovailoa. Banks could do that at tackle or guard. Yeah, so me and DJ see Kelvin Banks kind of the same in the sense that he can play tackle or guard. And the Dolphins do need to protect Tua Tagovailoa. We all know it. We've all seen it, unfortunately, with Tua's injuries. And I think he could be the best pure offensive tackle in this class. I think he's maybe got one of those like higher ceilings for offensive linemen, if that makes sense. I've got quite a few like kind of asterisks of these offensive lineman rankings. I know I've got kind of best pure offensive lineman, best pure interior, but I know I've got all those things. But Kelvin Banks Jr. is a fantastic pick, and the Dolphins need offensive line. Home run, easy. Oh, the Colts taking Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas. So he's been a big rise this year. He's someone that I actually need to watch more. DJ says, I think you'll see the buzz around Barron continue to grow. I completely agree. He possesses great quickness, instincts, and ball skills. So with the Colts, though, I'm not sure how I feel about them taking a cornerback. I don't hate Jahdae Barron at all there. Like I said, I haven't looked into him enough to critique it anyway. Tight end's already gone. I think it's a bit too early for Loveland. I just kind of would have liked to maybe add, even though it might be a bit of a reach, like a Loveland. Like, I'm really not that high on Loveland at all. But I just think you kind of want to see what Richardson has, and adding an extra weapon will help you see that more. But to be honest, I can't hate on this pick. Like I said, I can't critique Barron as a prospect, and Tyler Warren is gone, and it is early for Colston Loveland. So, and cornerback's always a position of need. Even if you have them, just keep stocking up on them. So it's a good pick. Falcons. I hate this pick, and I'll explain why once I tell you who the pick is. The Falcons at 15 take Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan. DJ says Johnson is a polarizing player around the league. He provides skill and production, but some questions emerged about his tackling and top speed in 2024. I really like Will Johnson as a prospect. I really like him. I do not have an issue with Johnson as a prospect. It's more the fact that the Falcons need edge rusher. Mike Green is on the board. James Pierce Jr. is on the board. Jamal Stewart is on the board. Like, the Falcons have needed a dominant edge rusher for genuinely as long as I can remember, for at least the last 5, 6, 7 years. So to take Will Johnson, who, as I said, is a great cornerback prospect, and the player I don't hate at all. It's more kind of like who the Falcons left on the board. And I even have Johnson ranked higher than than James Pierce or Mike Green. But I think need has to come into play here a bit more. I think it is a deeper edge class. You can get guys in the second on day 2. But I also think you can get corners on day 2, to be honest. I think it's quite a deep corner class as well. So I really don't like who they've left on the board. I like who they've taken. In a vacuum, I love the player, and the Falcons need some players on defense. I just hate them leaving edge rusher on the table here. I really hate that. It's hard when I love the player, but I hate who they've left. So I guess I'll kind of, like, the player I'd give an A plus even at this value, I think. Will Johnson's a top 7 player for me. So I love the value, I love the player. I just hate who they've not taken, if that makes sense. So I guess I'll rank it as a B, because I would give Will Johnson kind of like an A plus, but I would give them leaving edge like a C minus. So we'll meet in the middle there with B, I guess. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of these picks, by the way. Jalen Walker. Okay, I get to talk about Jalen Walker, one of my favorite topics. The Cardinals have drafted Jalen Walker at 16. DJ says, Jalen Walker, by the way, the linebacker from Georgia. DJ says, Walker is a bit undersized as an edge rusher, but he offers an intriguing mix of length, explosiveness, and playmaking ability. I would hate this for the Cardinals. I'm going to be brutally honest with you here. Jalen Walker, I see him as a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. He's been a 1-year starter. He kind of plays as this hybrid linebacker role. So he describes himself as being an HLB, hybrid linebacker. He can kind of play QB spy. He's good as a blitzer. He's, can play run and pass defense. He can rush the passer as well, obviously, play off-ball linebacker. He's very explosive. He's got hammers for hands. He's got no issue taking on and shedding blocks. But I just think that the Cardinals already drafted a kind of versatile defensive player in Darius Robinson last year. So I don't know how those two would kind of work together. I also think that NFL coaches struggle to use hybrid defensive players just historically, like Jabril Peppers or Isaiah Simmons. I kind of find that they're made to play one role. And I don't think that he's good enough to be a full-time edge rusher. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah has him down here as a linebacker, but in his top 15 rankings, I believe, and I hope I'm getting this right, because I don't want to spread fake news, but I think he had him down as an edge. And for me, he can't be a full-time edge. He's not good enough as a pass rusher. I don't think he has a good pass rush plan or any good pass rush moves. He's not good enough in coverage to be a pure linebacker, so I kind of question what role he's going to play. The Cardinals desperately need defensive talent, don't get me wrong, but again, I think there's so, like, where is Mike Green? And where's Mike Green and where is James Pierce Jr.? Where is Shamar Stewart? I'm going to sound like a broken record here, guys, but I just think there's better players on the board. And drafting a linebacker in the first round, I kind of never love. Sorry, Jack Campbell and Lions fans. I know he's good, but I still don't love it. Cincinnati Bengals, Walter Nolan. He's a player who has definitely had a great kind of post-season after the college season ended. He's someone that's kind of come onto the scene a bit later, I feel. So again, someone I need to watch more. DJ says Nolan is a dynamic interior disruptor. He'd be a key part of a turnaround under a new Bengals defensive coordinator, Al Golden. I completely agree. The Bengals need defensive talent, and Joe Burrow at the moment is on like a public campaign to get the ownership to actually pay these players. Like at the moment on defense, it's Trey Hendrickson and no one. They lost Jesse Bates. They lost DJ Reader. And I think you saw how terrible, I know we saw how terrible the Bengals defense was this year. So I think defense is definitely the way to go. I like Walter Nolan from what I know of him. So solid pick, I think. Solid pick. But again, would I go on edge rusher? Sorry. I love Kenneth Grant, so I might have gone Kenneth Grant there. But Kenneth Grant is actually the next pick at 18 to the Seahawks, the defensive tackle from Michigan. DJ says Mike McDonald looks back to his old stomping grounds at Michigan to select Grant, who will be a part of a great interior trio, Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. Keep in mind that Jaron Reed and Jonathan Hawkins are headed for free agency. I love Kenneth Grant. He's got an absolutely nasty spin move. He's my 18th ranked player, so basically literally exactly where he's going. 6'3", 340 pounds. As I said, nasty swim move. He's regularly just resetting the line of scrimmage. He rarely properly loses. He's a great run defender, and he's shown flashes as a pass rusher with great movement, skills, and hands. And he had a fantastic game against Ohio State. I think he can take on double teams really well, but he does struggle when he gets pushed laterally. So if the double team is coming straight at him, he's fine. But if one of them starts pushing him or washing him down, I think he does struggle there. And he's more of a disruptor than a pass rusher. But if he can continue to develop as a pass rusher, like Kenneth Grant, we could look back in like 5-6 years and be like, Kenneth Grant fell way too far. Like, he's a fantastic player. So I really like this pick. Although, you've got offensive linemen still on the board, right? Like, who is still on the board? It might be, I've got Josh Simmons from Ohio State still on the board as kind of the only one that's in this realm. So, I think the Seahawks need offensive line more. But if the value's not there, I guess the value's not there. I probably would have taken Josh Simmons here. But I really don't hate Kenneth Grant at all as a pick. The Bucs at 19, Jihad Campbell. I knew DJ would get Jihad Campbell in there. He absolutely loves him. And he's one more player that I need to watch, add into the list, definitely. DJ said they rave about Campbell's leadership and versatility at Alabama. He's a unique player because of his size and length as an off-ball linebacker. With Levante David and KJ Britt being ticketed for free agency, the Bucs fill a need. But I don't know how I feel about drafting a linebacker at the 19th overall pick. I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm going to be honest. Like, positional value does play a role in the draft. Where, you might disagree. That's just what I think is important. Is again, I know I sound like a broken record here, guys, but I think the Bucs have needed a good edge rusher for years. Yeah, they've drafted Joe Tryon Shoyinka. Yeah, they've got Greg Gaines. They've got William Golston, but they're all free agents. They've tried to add an edge rusher multiple years now in the draft, and they've not really hit. And I think you're looking at James Pierce Jr., who I think can be a fantastic speed rusher. You're looking at Mike Green, who is explosive and athletic and had a fantastic Senior Bowl. He could be a potential dominant edge rusher in the NFL as well. I think taking a linebacker, again, I'm not critiquing Jihad Campbell as a player here because I've not watched him enough to do that. but I just don't like the positional value at 19 to take a linebacker when there are some really good edge players on the board. C. Broncos. This is getting interesting now. Broncos are taking Nick. Honestly, never heard of this guy. I'm going to be brutally honest with you here, guys. This is not my full-time job, so forgive me for not knowing some of these players. Nick Emanwari, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from South Carolina, a safety. Emanwari gives me some Derwin James vibes when I studied him. I love his instincts and production. Yeah, fine. Again, I've not even heard of this geezer, so absolutely, I can't make a comment to his playing ability at all. But Colston Loveland's on the board, Luther Burden's on the board. You need to give Bo Nix playmakers, DJ. Like, Bo Nix, I think, has shown that he's a good quarterback, but I think he's definitely one that has also shown that he'll be better with better talent. So, to take a safety? And one that isn't Malachi Starks? No, I'm sorry. This is a terrible pick. Why the hell is Malachi Starks not the first safety drafted? That is mental. I need to know what DJ rates so highly about this Nick Emanwari guy, because Malachi Starks is insane. Malachi Starks is a top 10 player in this draft. If you want a safety, draft him. No, that's crazy. Have I missed Malachi Starks or something? I feel like I'm being gaslit right now. F. I'm sorry, that's an F. It's a terrible pick. DJ, worst mock ever. Pittsburgh Steelers taking Matthew Golden. I'm trying to wrap my head around that last pick. Anyway, Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas. Big riser, especially with how he played in the postseason. He had a fantastic post route on 4th and 13 to help Texas win the game against Arizona State. A really nice player. I really like Matthew Golden. He's got the ability to take the top off a defense. He's, one of those, like, he can be a big play threat for you in your offense. But I would have liked Luther Burden here. What does DJ not rate Luther Burden, I guess? DJ says, I don't think the Steelers could go wrong drafting Golden or Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka. Oh, and Emeka Egbuka's still on the board as well. Odd. They go with Golden in this case, but they are both professional route runners with outstanding hands and toughness. Yeah, I don't hate the Golden pick. I just think there are two better receivers on the board. Well, actually, I'm not that mad about Emeka Egbuka, but I definitely would have taken Luther Burden instead. I don't hate the pick. We'll go B. Chargers, Colston Loveland. You're going to see this all the time, guys. The Chargers need to give Justin Herbert more firepower. The coaching staff will be extremely familiar with what Loveland brings to the table. I agree. I think Loveland is definitely an upgrade for the Chargers, because at the moment they've got Will Disley as their starting tight end, and he's third in drops. He's had some absolute clangers this year. Good grief. And in terms of pass catcher, it's Lad McConkey and literally nobody else. We saw that in that game where he had like 9 receptions for like 190 yards and everyone else has like 10 yards. What was that against the Texans? Was that in the playoff game against the Texans? I can't remember. Either way, though, like I like this pick. I think it fills a need, and I think it also helps Justin Herbert. It helps Lad McConkey. I would have gone Colston Loveland over an Emeka Egbuka or a Luther Burden, just because I think they would clash with what you already have in Lad McConkey. I think what this Chargers offense needs is size and speed. Obviously, Loveland doesn't give you the speed, but he does give you the size. So I like this pick. We'll go A. Packers, finally an edge rusher that I like goes off the board. The Green Bay Packers at 23 take Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. DJ says, the Packers love front 7 players from the SEC with outstanding traits. Stewart fits that mold. I love Shamar Stewart. Again, sorry guys, I would have taken Mike Green and James Pierce Jr., but I think Shamar Stewart is a fantastic player. He's my 17th ranked player, so you're getting great value for him at 23 here. He has just such a great combination of size, speed, and length. And he moves so well for his size. Like, he can chase down quarterbacks. There's a play against Arkansas where he hit the quarterback and the running back at the handoff. Like, he's that quick that he can kind of get to the ball before the running back's able to touch it. And that forced a fumble as well. He's a good run defender, which is super important because that's kind of how you stay on the field, really. I know edge rushers, you want them to rush the passer, and that's primarily what you're drafting them for in the first round, don't get me wrong. But being able to play the run, massively helpful for being able to stay on the field. He's got 75th percentile arm length, 34 1/4 inch. He had a fantastic Senior Bowl. He showed, I think, that he can win with more than just his length, really. I thought he showed a great roster of pass rush moves, which were on full display. He was able to use speed to power, push pull. Like, he was looking really good at the Senior Bowl, really good. And I think he has the potential to potentially be a fantastic edge rusher, which really the Packers desperately need. I like Rashawn Gary. He never really has repeated that 2021, like, where he kind of was on the brink of becoming like one of the, well, not becoming, but kind of on the brink of being one of the best edge rushers for that year. He's never quite been able to get back to that. I think adding Shamar Stewart would be a force multiplier and would allow Gary to also get better. So I like Shamar Stewart here. Would I have gone Luther Burden though? Maybe, but Shamar Stewart, Packers, I like it. A-. Vikings, Malachi Starks. I love this. And I've not thought of this myself, and I love it. So DJ says, this is the safety from Georgia, by the way, to the Vikings, Malachi Starks at 24. DJ says, Starks didn't make as many plays as we're accustomed to seeing from him in 2024, but people at Georgia rave about his intangibles, leadership, and work ethic. He has the versatility to play over the top or cover the slot. That's why I love this pick. As I said, I think Malachi Starks is a top 10 player in this class on pure talent, taking out positional value, that's the word. But I think in this Brian Flores defense, which has crazy rotation, right? You've got like Harrison Smith off the edge as like, looking like he's going to blitz, and then he drops back and is more of a corner covering the underneath zone or whatever, or the outside, whatever the corner covers. I can't remember at this point. But like Malachi Starks would allow Flores to be even more crazy. Basically, like the whole point of the Vikings defense is to find positionally versatile players so that they can play anything. Like, that's what Van Ginkel was so good at, because he can do so many things. And Starks is fantastic. He manned up against Luther Burden, one of the best route runners, separators in this draft class, and shut him down as a safety. So I love this pick. That's an A+. I'm kind of gutted I never thought about it myself. DJ, all is forgiven. You've given my Texans at 25, Luther Burden, the third, the wide receiver from Missouri. Finally, he goes off the board. If this was to happen on draft day, I would be ecstatic, genuinely. DJ says the Texans are in the market for a new offensive coordinator. We actually just hired one, the LA Rams guy. But anyway, but they could use more help at receiver too. Burden reminds me of Stephon Diggs, who is headed for free agency. Yeah, I think at this point, Diggs, I'm happy to kind of let him walk coming off an ACL. I think it was a bit of a nightmare decision that we kind of like restructured his contract when we traded for him. Anyway, Tank Dell's injury, obviously super concerning. Like, we obviously really hope that he comes back and is fully healthy. But with an injury that severe, unfortunately, you just have to kind of make contingency plans. And I think having Nico Collins, that big-bodied outside wide receiver, paired with Luther Burden, mostly operating from the slot, wow. With CJ Stroud, wow. I love that. Yes, we need offensive line, but Luther Burden, I think he's my 9th ranked player, Luther Burden. Like, I love Luther Burden. He had over 700 yards after the catch last year, which was his better year, by the way. If you're going to watch any of Luther Burden, watch 2023, not 2024. That's one of the highest yards after the catch totals in college football in recent years for first-round wide receivers. I think like Jackson Smith and Jigba might have more for that one year in 2022, I believe. So Luther Burden is a fantastic yards after the catch threat, and so is Nico Collins. So to pair those two guys together, I love it. A+. Great pick. Rams taking Josh Connolly Jr. DJ says, I'm getting used to seeing the Rams make picks in the first round after their 7 draft gap from 2017 to 2023. That was crazy. F them picks. They got a Super Bowl ring, though. The team poured resources into the defensive line in the last draft. They flipped the script and take care of the offensive line in the first round this year. Yeah, I like Josh Connolly Jr. It's hard to keep track of who I've still got on my board. Like, I need to cross people off, basically. But again, I might have gone with Josh Simmons here, but he did only play the offensive tackle from Ohio State. I have him ranked higher, but he did only play 5.5 games this year before his injury, and there's not a lot of tape to watch of him generally. Josh Connolly Jr. is really experienced. He's got a really high floor, and it's a good pick, I think, at 26 to get a potential, strong, solid offensive tackle. I think getting that at 26 is fantastic value, to be fair. Good pick. B+. I know I'm very arbitrarily giving out rankings here, by the way, but I'm just trying to do my best to help contextualize what I think of these. Baltimore Ravens taking Azareye'h Thomas, the cornerback from Florida State. The Ravens double dip on drafting big, long cornerbacks after selecting Nate Wiggins last year. Thomas is a smooth, fluid athlete. I really like Azareye'h Thomas. He also had a great Senior Bowl practice week. He kind of got cooked when he was lining up against players like Tank Dell, but he's not going to cover players like Tank Dell. Like, he's going to be an outside cornerback who can play press coverage, which the Ravens like to play. I think it's a really good fit. What do I have? I don't really know if cornerback's a massive need, though. Again, it's not always about drafting for need. Like, I am aware of that. But I think the best picks are where value meets need, if I'm being honest. And I have the Ravens wide receiver. Luther Burden's just gone. And I think that's kind of a bit like a Zay Flowers pick anyways. Even if he was on the board, that's not necessarily the best kind of suggestion. Maybe a tackle here. Maybe Josh Simmons would have been better with Ronnie Stanley being a free agent. But Azareye'h Thomas from Florida State, I don't hate that at all. What grade am I going to give that? An A? I don't know. Oh my God, Mike Green, finally. Good grief. Although I do love this. I just don't think it will happen. But anyway, the Lions at 28 pick Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. DJ says it will be huge for the Lions to get Aiden Hutchinson back next season. Green would be a perfect complement with his speed and quickness off the edge. This team values production off the edge, and Green has a ton of it during his college career. He does. Mike Green is a great player, which is why I was expecting him to go so much earlier. But the Lions need a second edge rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Like, Hutch became this year, honestly, robbed of, I think, an all-time season from a pass rusher when Aiden Hutchinson got injured. He was on an absolute tear. But he's kind of elevated himself now, I think, to the point where we can consider him one of the league's best pass rushers. And the Lions have just never really been able to help him out with anyone else that can do that, really, especially from the edge position. And I think Mike Green is a perfect edge 2. I think he could eventually be an edge 1 in his own right, but definitely having him as that, like, with the expectations as just, do your job opposite Hutchinson. He's going to take the main rep or whatever. He's going to take the best tackle. You're going to scheme him open. But Mike Green is a fantastic player. Yes, he's got shorter arms. Yes, he comes from Marshall, but he had a killer Senior Bowl. He left after 2 days because it was so good. Ran through Josh Connolly Jr. and he had an amazing game against Ohio State. He had a spin move, which one of the best reps I've seen from an edge rusher in this class. It was insane. So I love Mike Green. This value for me would be insane. I think Mike Green's like a top 15 player for me. So getting him at 28, steal. Commanders at 29, take Josh Simmons, the Ohio State tackle. I think this is a great pick. I have Simmons ranked a lot higher than this. But protecting Jaden Daniels is absolutely essential now. They've struck gold with him. Like, he's such a great player, and protecting him, especially with how he plays. And I know to be fair to him, in the NFL, this wasn't really an issue. But at college, he was taking some big hits. And I think being able to give him even more time in a pocket will just, like, unlock that deep ball even more. Like, he was so good this year, Jaden Daniels. He's won Rookie of the Year, and rightly so. He's been fantastic. Yes, again, hold my hands up. I was wrong about Jaden Daniels, guys. Infamously on TikTok, I was well, not low on Daniels, but I was a bit of a Daniels doubter. And I've got to take my medicine and admit I've taken an L here. But Josh Simmons, good pick. Can't fault it. Getting a tackle at 29 that I think could be a great one. Oh, the Bills taking Derek Harmon, the Oregon defensive tackle. DJ says, Harmon is a very disruptive player at a deep position in this year's class. He could fill a void with Austin Johnson among the Bills' defensive linemen due to hit free agency this offseason. I think this is a really good pick. I think the Bills have kind of always been a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? They can kind of get exposed against the run. I was really worried that if they did end up beating the Chiefs and they had to play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, that they would just get blown off the ball by the Eagles' offensive line. I think that playing the run has always kind of been the Bills' kryptonite. And adding someone like Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon, would just help bolster the defensive line and add just some mass to it. Like, I even thought that the Bills against the Broncos would struggle with their run game. Now, obviously, because of how that game went, the run game wasn't really an option for the Broncos. They only scored on their first drive, and so they had to throw the ball a lot, so it wasn't really a factor, the run game for them. But I was worried also in that game that the Bills wouldn't match up against the Broncos' offensive line very well. So going defensive line here, I think it's a great pick. Another defensive tackle. Okay. The Eagles at 31 take TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. DJ said that there has been a lot of buzz for Sanders, but I think his tape was out. There has not been a lot of buzz for Sanders, but I thought his tape was outstanding. He's really twitchy, and he would fit right in with a bevy of talented defensive linemen in Philly. Yes, I don't really know how I feel about this because, again, it's hard to track kind of who I would have on my board at this point. But like, I guess we're looking at corner. I think you'd look for a corner to replace Slay, maybe, because obviously like, he's fine. Doesn't like need replacing himself, but like he's obviously getting on a bit. Like maybe I would have taken Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. Obviously, it depends on his injuries, so maybe that's why they just not put him here. It's hard to obviously think about what the Eagles need. That's kind of what they've been so good at, is not drafting for need. And ironically, that kind of means they never have to because they're just so stacked as a roster. Look, I'm happy to sit back and let Howie cook, if I'm honest. Whatever he takes, I'm happy to admit it was a great pick. Finally, DJ, oh my God, with the final pick, 32, the Kansas City Chiefs select James Pierce Jr., the edge from Tennessee. DJ says, some people see Pierce going early in round 1. Me? While there might be a debate about where he'll land in the draft, there's no doubt about his elite speed and production. DJ, it is elite, and his production is elite. So how are you putting an edge rusher who's elite, who's going to be a great speed rusher? Like, his first step is elite, not just for college, for NFL. Like, he's so quick off the ball, and he's produced, and he's good against the run and the pass. Yes, he's lighter. There's a rep against him with Booker, the Alabama guard who went really early. Stands that guy up. He's got like 70 pounds or something on James Pierce. Like, what I think 32 is criminal. And I'm not trying to hate on DJ here at all. Like, I'm not trying to do that, but I just think that is crazy. James Pierce Jr. going at 32. I think that is absolutely bonkers. I have James Pierce Jr. in my, where do I officially have James Pierce Jr.? Because I know it's very high. I have him as my 11th ranked player because I think he can be a difference maker as a pass rusher. If the Chiefs got James Pierce Jr. at 32, they're going to four-peat because apparently they've won the Super Bowl having the 32nd overall pick. Who, though, to wrap this up, who has not gone from my board who I think should have gone? Do I have anyone in the first round? Kenneth Grant. I like Alec Armano, but I'm higher on him, so I wasn't expecting him to go. Nick Skoughton. No, Nick Skoughton. I'm not mad on Nick Skoughton in the first round, honestly. I know he was kind of like really hot at the beginning of the draft cycle, but I think that's kind of calmed down a bit now, so I'm not mad about Nick Skoughton not being there. And Mekrik Buka is a big omission, I think. Someone's going to get a steal at the top of the second. If I'm the Panthers, I'm on the phone and I'm trading up and I'm getting a Mekrik Buka as well. Let's put it that way. Who else? Wyatt Millen? No, he didn't have a great Senior Bowl. Josh Connolly went. Benjamin Morrison's injured. Gray Zabel, I think Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from NDSU, should be a first round player. I would take him at the Texans at 25, but after that, the fit's not great. Colson Loveland's gone. Trey Harris, I understand him not going. Yeah, look, I think that's been very interesting. And it's been very interesting to see what DJ said about these players. And that's the beauty of it. Like I say, guys, this is the beauty of the draft. You might completely disagree with me ranking James Pierce Jr. very highly. Clearly, DJ does. Again, I'm not trying to say I'm right. I'm not trying to say I know more than Daniel Jeremiah. But I do watch all of these guys. If I haven't, I say. But I watched all of these guys, and these are informed opinions. I'm not saying they're going to be right. They're definitely not all going to be right. Believe me, I've learned that the hard way with my Jaden Daniels evaluation. But these are informed opinions. I do try and be as measured as I can when I'm talking about these guys. And I hope you enjoy the content. Because if you do, please subscribe. Because we're trying to get to 700 subscribers, which is amazing. I can't believe it. Thank you, everyone, for watching the content and supporting the channel. And the draft stuff's going to keep coming at you. So make sure you subscribe to see that. But I've been Dom Corbs. This has been Corbs NFL. I'll see you on the next one.